So, George Simion, welcome to the Freeman Report.
Glad to be here.
So, George, you're president of the Alliance for the Union of Romanians, which is a political party in the Chamber of Deputies. You're also executive vice president of the ECR party in the European Parliament. Just before we kick off, we've got a lot to talk about today. What would you say are your main principles? What do you stand for as an MP?
Our ideology is based on four pillars: nation, natural family, faith in God, and liberty. We also believe in free market. We also believe in downsizing the statal bureaucracy, and we think that the freedom of choice, the freedom of speech, the freedom of faith is a must in our alliances and for our nation.
Okay, George. So like I said, we've got a lot of ground to cover. Let's start with the elections in November last year. How do you interpret the Constitutional Court's decision to annul the presidential elections? And what evidence, if there is any at all, do you believe there is of any Russian interference in Georgescu's campaign?
Not a shred of evidence. The only reason they canceled the elections was because they didn't like Mr. Georgescu, and because Mr. Georgescu is not one of them, is not one of the persons allowed to run the Romanian post-communist state. I was also a participant in these elections. They prepared this annulment for myself as the most important political figure. People must know that we don't have a constitutional court formed out of judges, real judges from the judicial system, but out of politicians. They are named by the parliament and by the former president of Romania. Some of them are former senators and the members of the Chamber of Deputies.
I mean that sounds. I mean that kind of starts to make sense now when you look at what's happening. How corrupt is politics in Romania, would you say?
Pretty much like everywhere in Europe, we have greedy politicians who are corrupt, who are more and more concentrated on their persons, on getting wealthier and wealthier, and ignore the populations. We are one of the richest countries in Europe from the point of view of mineral resources, of oil, gas, gold, and salt, and so on. But we have the poorest population inside the European Union. They are always telling us that we grew in GDP numbers, but this growth is not reflected in the wealth of the population, in the well-being of the population, because the ones that are benefiting from our resources are multinational companies, are state-owned companies, but not by our state, but by the Austrian state, by French or German state. So we are like a colony being robbed of our resources, like we were decades and decades ago by different empires. So I formed in 2019 a political party from zero, a grassroots movement that entered the Romanian Parliament the next year. We had the sovereignist message. We were labeled as extremists, and they tried to put cordon sanitaire, like in the European Union parliament around us. They couldn't do it because we have popular support. Of course, they smeared us. They called us Russian agents, far right politicians, and so on. From followers of Ceausescu to followers of the Iron Guard, they used every term they had in their playbook. People appreciated what we did. The Romanian people wanted something else. So now we are the first in the preferences of Romanians in the opinion polls. We finished second in the last parliamentary elections. We are the second largest party in the Romanian Parliament. We joined the ECR, that European party that initially was formed by you, by the Brits, by the Conservative Party in Great Britain. Now I am one of the three vice presidents of ECR, along with Mario Mareșal from France and Carlo Fidanza from Italy. Our president is Mateusz Morawiecki, former prime minister of Poland. We are an Euro-realistic group in the European Parliament and Euro-realistic political party. We are in favor of Europe of nations, of nation states. We are not in favor of dismantling the European Union, but returning the European Union to its basic principles and to the founding fathers of to the principles of Adenauer and de Gaulle of free market, free trade, free circulations of people.
And George, do you think that's possible now? Because we've the European Union has been around for quite some time now, and it seems over the years it becomes more and more centralized, with power becoming going to unelected officials. Do you think it's actually possible to reform the EU to a state like you're talking about there, a group of sovereign nations?
It's the only way for us, for the Romanians, for the Polish people. We cannot imagine another project than a united Europe that is part of the free world and is in close relations and has a strategic partnership with the United States. Yes, this is our will. Our parents, our grandparents fought to be free from the Russian influence, from the Soviet powers, to be part of the free world. So we want this freedom, even if, of course, like in any alliance, there are forces that are trying to take the power, like they managed to do in the last 15 to 20 years. They centralized more and more the power around Brussels and around France and Germany, and ignored the eastern states, ignored all 27 states. They want to dismantle the veto right. They
Yeah.
want to change the treaties. But we are agreeing to have a change in the treaties if the people want it. But like we saw in the Irish referendum and in many opinion polls, the people don't want more power to the greedy, unelected bureaucrats in Brussels. And we are fighting for what the people want. For example, what the Romanian people want. Because, yes, we want to be a part of the European Union, but we don't want some Soviet commissars to dictate us how we should educate our children, how we should ignore our tradition and not call them mother and father, but parent one, parent two, how we should talk politically correct. When I was in my last year of high school, I was in a European project, and I was visiting Poland. And one slogan of the European Union back then was unity under diversity. but they only meant one kind of diversity, like LGBT diversity, because we are diverse. We are conservative people. We are the majority of the Romanian people are Christian, Christian Orthodox. So we follow our ancestors, our history, our religion, but we are an European country, even if now we are talking about coup d'etat and annulled elections. Everybody is asking me this since the 6th of December, since the coup d'etat. If we are a banana republic, if they will come to Bucharest, or you will come to Bucharest, for example, if the army will arrest you. We are not a South American dictatorship. We are just a country that believed too much in Brussels, and the bad guys took over the power in Brussels.
Yeah, I mean, you've clearly got a very proud people. I mean, the number of people that ran on the streets in Bucharest at the weekend, quite staggering scenes that we saw there. So clearly, the people, I think, want change. Now, in Romania, there's two houses of parliament: the Chamber of Deputies, which is the lower house, and then the Senate. What would you say the majority view within both parliaments are on the situation related to the annulled presidential elections?
They have the power in Romania. They have the control over the army, the judicial system, over the secret services, over the electoral authority. So the power is in their hands. It was a huge blow for them at the parliamentary and presidential elections that we managed to take one third of the seats in the lower house and the upper house, in the Chamber of the Deputies and the Senate. Uh, they called themselves four parties that until now they were enemies: the socialists, the liberals, the progressists, and the Hungarian minority. Called themselves the pro-European side, but actually they are the establishment. They are the crooked old parties, and they try to smear us with different name calling, and even using the judicial system, because now Mr. Georgescu, after 3 months after the annulment of the elections, was taken to the prosecutor's office,
Yeah.
and he was accused of nothing. Our foreign friends from France or Italy or Spain asked me why did his bodyguard have 10 million euros and a ticket to Moscow. But actually, this is crazy accusation, because the guy wasn't his bodyguard, and the guy was part of the Legion Étrangère in France in his youth, and now he leads a team of mercenaries fighting in Congo and some African countries, and he has good relations with the socialists and with the deep state in Romania. He's not Georgescu's bodyguard, but they are trying to link Georgescu to anything that can get him banned, that can get him excluded from the presidential race. Somehow similar to what happened with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
The only difference is that Donald Trump belonged to system that had free elections for over 200 years, and we formally have free elections since 1989 revolution, after the fall of the Iron Curtain. In Romania, we didn't have a velvet revolution like everywhere in the Soviet bloc. In Romania, over 1,000 people died in the Romanian Revolution in order for the neo-communists to take over the power and to pretend themselves to be Democrats. they were not Democrats, and 35 years later, turns out that they don't like the result of an election if the people elect somebody that is not one of them.
Do you think there's been outside pressure, or do you think it's the actual parliament within Romania which decided to annul the elections, or do you think it's wider than that?
Much wider than that.
Yeah.
The abuses started because we had all rounds of elections in 2024 in Romania, and it all started when they combined, they merged the local elections with the European elections, because they have all the mayors in over 3,000 municipalities in Romania. So this influenced the result of the European elections. That was very important for Ursula von der Leyen. The EPP Congress was held in February in Bucharest, and Ursula von der Leyen spoke against my party and against other parties, other sovereignist parties across Europe. So you had the president of the European Commission that, for example, in 2022 spoke against Madam Giorgia Meloni in the Italian elections, and she said, "Italians, please do not exit the European Union. Please be careful what you vote." So this happened with EPP Congress in February. Then in June, 3 days before the European elections, the same prosecutors that are taking Mr. Georgescu from traffic to get him to the general prosecutor's office and to ban him of several rights of movement. The same prosecutor took us and my campaign team 3 days before the European elections from the street, in front of our houses, took our phones, took our laptops, and until now, 8 months after, they still haven't returned our goods and didn't
Wow.
do anything in that dossier. So they are instrumentalizing the judicial system because they don't agree for us to take the government and to lead the country. This is basically what happened. And the pretext is the Ukrainian war. The pretext is the establishment, but we are just a testing polygon. I'm going tomorrow to Poland, and in Warsaw, the same thing is prepared by the Tusk government against the law and justice candidate Karol Nawrocki and the right wing people in Poland. We know people across Europe got fed up. Now we understand
Yeah.
why the British voted to exit the current European project. So what we will try to do is to peacefully and democratically return to the will of the people. This is complicated. We have high hopes from the Trump administration. We have hopes that with Elon Musk, with a little bit of balance in the social network and of using the internet, we conservatives across Europe will manage to win the elections and to reclaim our continent and our countries. I am the co-founder of Make Europe Great Again movement. We started it last year in Bucharest, and hopefully the wave of MAGA will reach the old continent with the mega movement.
Amen to that, definitely. Now, Georgescu is not a member of any political party, standing as an independent. If he does get elected as president, then the president picks the prime minister, and which has to be approved, obviously, by the parliaments. But do you think if Georgescu gets elected, is he going to actually be able to lead the country. How difficult is it going to be for him to have support within the parliaments?
He won't have support. We have one third of the seats with the sovereignist parties. So we will even get to new elections, or we will uh, try to convince some other members of the parliament. We are semi-presidential um, country, so things are complicated. Both the prime minister named by the parliament and the president have powers. So it will take some time, and we will continue to fight for taking the government.
Yeah, so it sounds like, if Georgescu gets elected, this is just step one of the fight
Yes,
and of the
and
things you need to
this
do to
this
take
is
back control.
yes, this is the more of a surprise what they did, not to recognize the result of the elections, not to let the people vote because they were scared.
Yeah.
Georgescu was winning with 70% of the votes. So we have a system of checks and balances in our constitution. We have, for example, they say he's a Russian agent or he's crazy, and so on and so forth. We have measures that you can take in this case. No, they were afraid the deep state will be dismantled. They were afraid that they did so many crimes, they will be accused. So this is why they didn't allow him to take the seat of president. So if the European Commission wouldn't have allowed this to happen, things would have been normal, and we would have had Georgescu as president and an opposing majority in the parliament.
Now, there's been much talk about the reasons. Obviously, you're talking about some of the reasons there why we think Georgescu's campaign is being targeted. But I would say that probably the principal reason that's being talked about online is his desire for peace in Ukraine, which clashes with the expansion of the airbase near the Black Sea, which will become, if it goes ahead, NATO's largest base in Europe if it's completed. Now, the base will house 10,000 NATO troops and their families by 2030. So it is a big deal for NATO and the EU. And so many people believe this is the reason Georgescu is being targeted, because he doesn't want war with Russia. He wants peace. What's your understanding of that?
Me, as a president of a political party, I can say we need NATO to survive. We need NATO forces and allied forces in Romania because we were a country that was occupied after the Second World War. So Pax Americana that ruled after Second World War suited us, even if we had to wait for the Allies to come for 50 years. So nobody will take down the base, and nobody will go to war from our point of view. The globalists lost the power, and the Soros people and Soros network lost the power in the United States. So now they are trying to gain back some ground in Europe. So this is the reason why they want to continue a war. They want to continue to rule by getting people to be scared. They did this in COVID period, ruling with fear, and making many uh, cases of corruption. And I can tell here about Ursula von der Leyen and
Yeah.
the case of Pfizer vaccines, and I can continue on and on about corruption cases at European level, because you asked me if we have corruption in our political system. Yes, I saw many corruption cases in the Romanian Parliament, but I saw 10 times more in
Yes,
the
yes,
European
yes.
Parliament.
It's a bit like The Godfather, I think. The further you go up, the more corrupt it becomes. I think that's the case with the EU, isn't it?
We, I'm the youngest political party leader from the parliament. I have 38 years old. I was born in 1986. We dreamt of free Europe, of free America. We grew up with Hollywood movies. We grew up with Western culture. So we are a little bit disappointed that it is being formed in these years a new Soviet Union, a new Babylon, and it steps over democracy and freedom. I'm a Democrat. I want my kids to live in freedom, and I want my kids to grow up in a normal country. My president of ECR, Mateusz Morawiecki, is always saying we are fighting for common sense. This is why JD's Vance in Munich Security Conference that made some cry was very, very important to
Yeah.
us, and I'm sure to many European people, to many British people, because you have some common sense examples in JD's Vance's speech that was all were also about Great Britain.
But, you know, you clearly, I think most of us can see that NATO has been incredibly important to the world, really, over the past whatever decades since its formation. Do you not worry at the moment, though, that given what you've just talked about, the fact that you've got this kind of oligarchy, international oligarchy, which is at the moment seems to be focusing on Europe because, like you said, you've got a new Trump administration in America which isn't signed up to this. Do you not worry that having the largest base, NATO base in Europe, based in Romania, that Romania is going to get dragged into a war with Russia, particularly given, I guess, all of the things which have been said by European leaders over the past week about putting NATO troops on the ground in Ukraine? Do you not worry about that?
No, it's not realistic. We had meetings with all the political parties in Romania. No political party in Romania wants to send troops in Ukraine.
Yeah.
The most important force in NATO is the United States. Uh, Mr. Trump wants peace. He made it very, very clear. I'm not afraid that NATO uh, will send troops to Ukraine. I'm afraid that we will lose NATO. NATO was a good solution for security. NATO is the solution for peace in Europe and all over the world where it has members. So, what I'm afraid of is the Trump speech in 8 hours. If Trump decides to quit NATO, this
Yeah.
this is what scares me the most, because we need NATO and we need a reformed European Union. We need to defund EU institutions because we don't need that many European institutions. Now, the crazy bureaucrats want a European army. I do not agree with an European army. I'm agreeing, my Romanian party, my European party, with good transatlantic alliance and good transatlantic relations, including the English
Oh,
world, including the Commonwealth, including what we see as the free world. This is why when I was at the inauguration of Mr. Trump, this was satisfying for me. When I heard the speech of President Trump when in Washington and speaking about economic prosperity, about cutting the funds for crazy people that wanted to change the genders of our children, talking about two kinds of gender, male and female, it seems that common sense is back in the house and the neo-Marxists are gone, are defeated for the next 20, 30 years. Nigel Farage had a good speech in CPAC saying, hey guys, you gave us woke. You gave us woke. So you are to blame. So take your woke agents, take your Soros agents out of our countries and leave us be. And let's talk about bilateral cooperation and exchanges that from which we benefit, we all benefit. Because from what I saw until now, as a member of the parliament and as the leader of the opposition, the relations was good only for one of the partners that came here to take our oil, to take our natural gas, to put bills for the water we have in the earth, to put bills for our power supplies, and for everything that my parents and grandfathers built.
Yeah. Now, George, Georgescu clearly has a lot of support with the Romanian people. It's clear from the results in the election, but also the polling. What do you think would happen if the authorities in Romania disqualify him from running? I mean, we had 300,000 people on the streets in Bucharest at the weekend. What do you think would happen to the country if they did that?
This protest we organized Saturday is the last protest we will organize because it's hard to keep people calm,
Yeah.
peacefully. People are nervous, people don't have patience. So if there's a Russian meddling, I would say yes, they are trying to create chaos, and the way to create chaos in our country is not to have free elections and not to allow somebody to be a candidate, Mr. Georgescu in this case, because he clearly has the popular support now, even more with this judicial abuse. So hopefully we will return to normality, to democracy. If I don't want to think what will happen
Yeah,
if
sure.
they will not run. We are a peaceful country and a peace-loving people. So they accused us of taking word in our parliament and told us we are aggressive. But today I saw scenes in the Serbian parliament, for example, with smoke bombs and so on. I often see in the House of Commons in London that some punches thrown from each side. We are peaceful, but when we get upset, it happens like in the 1989 revolution. So I will probably be arrested also uh,
Yeah.
if this happens. Hopefully, we will have a democratic transition of power. Gandhi, for example, walked miles and miles and miles. So the people who were against him then began to be neutral and then joined him. So we will continue to remain peaceful with our actions.
Yeah. Now, finally, George, in his speech at the Munich Security Conference, the US Vice President J.D. Vance made it clear that the Trump administration is not happy about the elections being cancelled because the wrong person might win. Um, He also said that the biggest security threat to Europe is not China or Russia, but actually forces within Europe itself. As an elected member of the Romanian Parliament, what would you like to say to the Trump administration? What can they do to help Romania?
We need to help ourselves first. Of course, I wish that we have good relations, and I wish the agenda of the Trump administration is translated in Romania. But I remember also a speech from Donald Trump in the UN, speaking about sovereignty, about how you can be free, and the only way of becoming free is keeping your sovereignty, keeping your independence, keeping your decisions. The only way to be free is to take your own decisions. So that was a historical speech held in his first term as a president by Donald Trump, and hopefully, United States, even if it has an administration that puts America first, doesn't forget about the free world and supports by any way all the people that desire to be free. We were left behind after the Iron Curtain for 50 years after the Second World War. Those were the times. One bloody dictator was eliminated, Hitler, but we remained under the rule of another bloody dictator, Stalin. So the only thing we wish for is to continue to be free, to continue to fight for freedom, and not to be left behind.
George, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I hope that we can speak again as the elections progress. Hopefully, I hope and pray that they are free and fair elections. But listen, George, thank you very much for today. Thank you.
This is the only thing we want: democracy, free elections, and all the people across the world. Please support us, and we will support you. God bless you.
Fantastic. Thank you, George.